Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Moana Nui Podcast. Tonight, we are discussing the importance of cultural practitioners as part of our Kuleana series in sponsorship and partnership with Papa Ola Lōkahi. Excited to partner and collaborate with one of our continental partners tonight, KALO Hawaiian Civic Club, coming out of the state of Oregon. We have had their founder, and I don't know if she would like me to call her this, but CEO on the show before. So she is Ohana to this podcast. I'm excited to have her with us. And tonight we are bringing our ōpio. And for those who don't know, that's our youth onto the podcast to hear their voices on this topic. And I think it's really important to hear their perspectives and their unique way in which some of the unique challenges that they face when it comes to staying connected to culture and perpetuating it here on the continent. But before we dive in, I'll just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Moana McAdams. I am the founder of the Moana Nui Podcast. I'm also a children's book author for the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea series, a publisher here at Burning Spear Comics with our comic book series, The Wildcard Chronicles, and a cultural ambassador and advocate for our communities and a champion, friend, and ally to our BIPOC communities as well. So thank you all for joining us. As we go through tonight's conversation, please feel free to jump in with questions in the chat if you would like, and we will bring those up as those come in. I will go ahead and announce our guests. So I'll start with our moderator. As I mentioned, Leialoha, she's the CEO, founder, and leader there at KALO Hawaiian Civic Club, and excited to have her with us. So welcome, Lei.
Aloha.
Next, we have, let's see, I have two people on one screen. So let me introduce them together and in order. First, we have Mayma Garvy. She is 17-year-old and she identifies as a proud Nihonjin here in the Pacific Northwest. Her ohana, and she came to uh, Oregon in 2007, but she was born in Vacaville, California. I hope I'm saying that. She's one of the founding members of Mohala's Youth Council, and they focus on encouraging youth to be engaged in civic activities, community organizing, and leadership development. And with her is Chloe Rodrigues. Chloe is the Director of Government Relations for Mohala Youth Council. She was born in Torrance, California, to her mom, who is Mexican from East LA, and her dad, who is Puerto Rican from Kona, Hawaii. She has been living in Oregon since 2010 and dancing hula with Halau Kale Halia Okalokelani shortly after in 2012. She is also 17 years old and a senior at Aloha High School. So let's welcome both of them to the show. Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha.
Awesome. Next, we have Sophia Sakaino. She is a sophomore at Southridge High School in Oregon. She's also a member of Mohala Youth Council, a group of young leaders devoted to uplifting ōpio voices through community work and discussions. She's lived in Oregon, and most of her family lives on the island of Oahu. She gets to live a mixture of both places by being a hula o lapa, also at Kalehalia o Kalokilani, and she's been a part of that halau for almost a decade. In her free time, she enjoys volunteering, thrifting, and trying new food. All right, aloha, a fellow foodie.
Aloha.
Aloha, Sophia. And then last but certainly not least, Kahoku Ka'ula. She was born in Hilo, and she's also the daughter of Leialoha. She moved to the continent when she was 5, and she has been dancing hula for almost 12 years now. She also volunteers closely with uh, KALO HCC of Oregon and Southwest Washington. She is the director of health for Mohala Youth Council, and she is also an editor and writer of Na Kamali'i Talk Story, inquiring minds of today's youth. Oh, we got to talk story about that. She's also attending Pacific University to pursue her bachelor's degree, and she was one of the founding members and president of her high school's Pacific Islander Club. So, welcome, Kahoku. Aloha.
Aloha.
Alrighty. So tonight, Leialoha is going to moderate our conversation. So I'm gonna hand it over to her, and we'll get started. Mahalo, sis.
Mahalo to you, Moana, for having us. Mahalo for having this space for our Kanaka and our ōpio to be able to come and share. And yes, I have very much enjoyed not only being a part of the podcast, but also listening. And we do also love her books. It's in our library. I'm here at KALO. Miss Sherry Daniels is also a huge fan. So she hooks us up in our library. So mahalo
Yes.
nui loa. Yeah, again, aloha mai kako. My name is Leialoha Ka'ula, and I am with Ka'alahui Ole Kona Hawaiian Civic Club, also known as KALO HCC here in Oregon. And this evening, I'm very proud to be joined by our ōpio, our youth leaders of Oregon, our Mohala Youth Council. I know we're missing a few of them, but tonight I think the conversation, hopefully I'm on the right track, is that we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a youth at ōpio living in the diaspora and what those kuleanas and what all of that looks like, and just talking story and asking questions. Yeah, hopefully, especially because we live, so making sure I'm right. I think, what was it, September? We were very fortunate enough to host our first ōpio retreat here in Oregon, and we were welcomed by our ōpio in California. They came up to join us, and one of our main conversations, which is what stemmed me to asking Auntie Moana, like, hey, would the ōpio be awesome on the podcast? And the question was that we posed to our youth was, youth on the continent have had to reroute and re-educate themselves to be able to stay rooted in their cultural values due to the inaccessible resources and direct connection to culture. And so when that topic came up, a lot of conversation started to stem, and it started to really open up what our ōpio go through. A lot of times we hear about our adults. I was on the panel that talked about the importance of cultural practitioners here on the continent, but what we wanted to hear was from our ōpio and why cultural practitioners are so important to them living in the diaspora and having to try to navigate that Western education here on the continent. So I don't know if maybe we can start with you folks giving a little bit more introduction about yourself, and maybe talking about, because I think we're all united through hula. So maybe we can talk about why you dance hula and why hula grounds you in what you do. So we can start with Chloe.
Wow. So, yeah, my name is Chloe. In terms of kind of immigration story of my family, so like I said, like what was introduced earlier, my dad's family is from the Big Island. My grandpa's side is from Kona, my grandma's side is from Hilo, and my dad decided to join the military and move up here to the continent, but he has really strong roots in Hawaii, and our family has strong roots in Hawaii and the culture and like the land. And so passed that on to me and decided he wanted me to dance hula. So him and my mom put me in hula. And that's been a pillar for my culture and my identity for a very long time. I also have another side of my identity, which is my Mexican side on my mom's side of my family. So I'm fluent in Spanish. And so those are like the kind of the two sides of the coin that I play all the time. I think it's important for me personally that I have hula as a grounding point, because I am somebody who is practicing a culture that is not my race. And because I have that point to go back to, I can tell people, this is my immigration story. This is the language that I speak through hula. And when we're talking about cultural practitioners and why in diaspora it's so important to have those cultural practitioners, it's so that we can have that point to go back to and then tell our stories from Hawaii or from wherever else we come. Yeah, that's me. Okay. Mayma, you want to go next since you're like
next.
right here?
I'll go next. Oh, my story in my bio mentioned I'm Nihonshin, so I'm Japanese. My family and I, we always visit. We have family back in Japan, so we like to go there once a year. But there was one year where we couldn't go to Japan, so we're like, let's meet halfway. So we all met in Hawaii. And so after that, my mom, she signed me up to join the halal. I didn't know what I was putting myself into. I thought it was just another activity. But once I started learning the significance of hula and how it's a cultural practice to the people of Hawaii, I really grasped to it. And so hula, because I'm not of Native Hawaiian descent, hula helped me with my identity, I think, because I guess being Japanese and living in the US on the continent, it's very hard because there's two different stereotypes when you're a person of another culture living on the continent. And so I was very lost, but hula with the halal, it has helped me with reconnecting back to my cultural roots and expressing that proudly here in the US. Oh, wait, I'll move it on. Kahoku. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm Kahoku. For me, I love hula. I've been dancing for a long time, but it wasn't until recently that I fully understood my connection with it and how it made me more grateful for having hula in my life and what hula has brought me. It's brought me like my hula sisters, the people I know and love today. Moving away for college, it's definitely you understand more of the importance of it. I think I wasn't able to actually attend an in-person class. And so when finally went back and I danced with all of them and I wasn't on the other side of a screen watching them while I was on the other side, doing my own thing in my room, it felt different and I cried because you just don't feel the same. And dancing with your hula sisters in person after not dancing with them for a long time, it feels different. You feel more of a connection and you feel more grounded in who you are. And I'm glad I have that because I'm fortunate enough to be able to still dance hula even when I'm away from my halal and my family and my home. Granted, it's not far away, but sometimes you can't always make the trip out. Just having that outlet, it's freeing in a way that like no matter where you are or where you go, your family and connection will always be there. And that's like what hula is for me. So I'll pass it on to Sophia.
Oh, Hoku, how are you gonna say that? I'm all choked up right now. Echo everything that the girls already said. Hoku kind of summarized it well. I think maybe right now I'm even like taking taking it for advantage because like sometimes I just reflect and it's like hula has provided me more than just hula basics and learning songs and oli, but the halal has been one of the most stable families I've had. And so, got stop. And it has just provided with me. Oh my gosh, guys. We're only like 10 minutes into the podcast. It's just, yeah. So, a little bit about myself. Let me go there. I have a similar story to Chloe. My my family comes from the Philippines, China, Japan, and immigrated to Hawaii to work on the plantations. And I don't have any Hawaiian descent at all. And I think that's especially important because I have to acknowledge that I'm not Hawaiian. I'm not in a place where I can speak for Hawaiians at all. And that the fact that I am practicing this culture by dancing hula and learning olelo, I need to know my place. And navigating that has been really helpful with kumule and just all my hula sisters. But yeah, I think going back to when my grandparents immigrated to Hawaii, they were automatically faced with a lot of assimilation. And my parents found that they were growing up a lot in Hawaiian culture. And so when it came to raising me and my brother, that's all they knew. And especially when we moved to Oregon, it felt like nothing, there was no familiar faces. Everything was so foreign and they felt so like it was hard. It was really hard. It was difficult for my family. And so putting me in halal and seeing that I was flourishing in a space with like where I belong, I think that's just something I've kept to. Sorry, I'm not really making sense right now. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and a little bit about why I dance hula, what got me into hula. Um, yeah.
Can I add? Okay. I think like a common theme that is coming up in all of us is that halal is like a pillar or like a safe space for everybody. And I think that's something that a lot of people moving from Hawaii to the continent are trying to seek out, but they find it really hard. And I think what we're demonstrating and the goal of a lot of these kind of pu'uhonua on the continent is to be creating these new generation of kids so that these safe spaces aren't so scarce. And so I think everything that we're saying is an example of we're spreading out. Like it's not going to be as scarce as it was before, and hopefully not everybody's experience is going to be as daunting as probably our family's experience moving from the continent. Like it can be just a less scary experience. And Sophia, I wanted to comment on something you said, that we need to know our place. We need to know and it's not that we need to know our place because we stand on the same ground as everybody else. We are educated and we are raised in this culture just as everybody else, but we need to just know our history, and other people need to know our history too. It's because we come from the same place, ultimately. It's just we need to know the histories of the people coming in and out of this place. And Hawaii is like that common dot, and everybody has what kuleana to know. Who has visited here? Who has contributed to the Aina? We have a place, and nobody has a right to tell us that we have to know our place because we know who we are.
Yes. Excuse me. I'm not choked. Yeah, I have to take my glasses off because the glare. Yeah, I know, Sophia, we're only studying into this whole thing. Something that is special about our group or your folks' group that you've built is that relationship and that understanding of who you are, the grounding, right? And I think that's where a lot of our conversation, right? Because cultural practitioners, the podcast that I was on, the conversation was about being Hawaiian and being a cultural practitioner, or being a non-Hawaiian and being a cultural practitioner, right? And so for me, was very privileged to be able to be Hawaiian and know what it means to be a Hawaiian cultural practitioner and offer that up here, right? Offer that to our community. And so I guess, and this might not be the question that we was going to ask, sorry, because you guys are looking at me like, Auntie, that's not, we didn't talk about that. So I guess my question to you folks is, as we've built our pu'uhonua, and I'm going to lead, this is from Auntie Moana's podcast that I was on. As we've built our pu'uhonua here in Oregon, and you folks have been together for well over a decade, our halal has been in this space. We've really created a root here for ourselves. What would be the difference had I not been Hawaiian? What would you folks say? Would there have been a difference if I had come into this space and tried? What have you folks seen? What are the differences of having somebody who has that cultural connection that brings this to this space versus someone who doesn't? Am I making sense? Is that too deep of a question? And you guys are like, really? Okay. So because that was a question that we talked about on our last podcast. And I think just to connect the two, is just as ōpio, what is the importance of having cultural practitioners? Whoever would like to go first, unmute yourself and go.
If nobody else is going to go first, I'll go first. I think there's definitely a lot of value in for our specific example, there's a lot of value in you being Native Hawaiian because our halal is built off of olelo. That's what. So that's specifically for our specific example. It's very important. Also, I feel in our generation might be like one of the first generations of people where there are a lot of cultural practitioners who aren't necessarily Hawaiian. I don't know that for sure. I can ask that as a question. Is this generation of Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners built up of more non-Native Hawaiians than before? Is that something you're starting to see more? Or, yeah, I don't know.
Are you asking continent-wise? Am I seeing more non-Native Hawaiians offering Hawaiian cultural practices versus people who
Like
are
authentically, though.
authentically
All across the board.
all across the board? There are definitely more who are authentically teaching culture versus those who are unauthentically teaching culture.
But like than before.
Oh, than before. Oh gosh, no. I want to say in today's era, there are a lot more practitioners who are self-proclaimed practitioners. If I want to say that very mindfully and very respectfully, but very honestly.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
You're still
I'm
thinking?
still
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll leave my answer at that.
Anyone else want to share? Aole, you guys ready for the next one? That one was deep.
It's a deep question because I'm still trying to think of more to say. Like,
It is it is a deep question. I think you guys can, it was, even when we were on our podcast, it was a deep question. We were like, oh, wow. That was yeah.
it really depends on like individual circumstances.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, and the connections you have, like, definitely, if you can trace where you learned from, you can trace your knowledge back to somebody who is Native Hawaiian and who has, like, significant roots in what you were taught.
the ikiku.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wait, no, may kai. Okay, so I'm going to lean back onto your folks'. So I think through your cultural practices, right? So being able to be part of Palau, to be able to have hula as something that has rooted you folks in your identity. How has hula helped you in your activists? Like how has it been able to give you the pathway in civic engagement? How has hula engaged that part of you? What is hula? What role does hula play for you folks? And I think this kind of goes with the conversation we were having with our ōpio from Kaleponi, right? When you folks went to the Lo'i, when we went to the Mala in Oregon, right? We went to the Mala. Before we started working in the Mala, we already knew the practices, right? We had the practices, the protocols in place of how we were going to do that. And that was something that was a little bit new for those ōpio. Now they're in a same generation of you folks. So I guess, how does hula help you in the other aspects of your life? Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And maybe somebody not Chloe can go first this time. Not that I don't know. Okay, go ahead, Coco.
For me, it's taught me a lot of my values besides familial values. But it's also really nice because some cultures you can relate to each one, and you can connect with more people that way. And another thing is, without hula, I probably wouldn't be the person I am today. I also probably wouldn't have the same mindset. With hula, it makes me more confident in a way and feel more passionate about things. Yeah, it just made me more of a grounded person in a way, and you can also see things in a different perspective, if that makes sense. Because everybody has their own opinions and their own perspectives and their own like cultural lens that they see through. And I guess with hula, and you get to meet more people and make more connections that allows you to see more things than just one. So yeah, that is what it is. I want to bounce off from Kahoku about being a more rounded person. I feel like because we're in Halal and a lot of us are of Native Hawaiian descent, going back to like civic activities, like I think of from this past month, you're in a very Native Hawaiian environment. And so when you are not Native Hawaiian, you feel like, oh, I don't have to say and all these stuff. But through Halal, because we're all of different backgrounds and cultures, you recognize and acknowledge your culture. And so it makes you more confident when you're put into different environments to speak out, not from like a Native Hawaiian perspective, but of like how you feel passionately about the topic. Because even though some of us attended the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, and even though we aren't Native Hawaiian, we can still talk about the different topics because we have the passion and the knowledge for it.
Yeah, and even growing up here, we have aunties and uncles who are Native Hawaiian. I have a nephew who is Hawaiian. We have people who have raised us who are Native Hawaiian. So we also have that sense of kuleana to give back that reciprocal, like what was given to us and like the values and histories that were gifted to us. So we have a kuleana to take care of that community just as much as our own.
Because we were able to represent all of our families from Olekona at AOHCC.
Yeah.
In that convention.
I think that's really beautiful. I wasn't able to go to the association convention, but to hear that they're making connections just makes me really happy. I think to this question, I can respond in two different ways. Like Kahoku and Mayma already shared, like halal has shifted my perspective and made me a more well-rounded person, especially because I felt like in halal, I grew up a lot with strong women, and they were a huge role model for me and who I believe that I could become. So yeah, I've taken a lot of inspiration after the Alakai and my kumu, who have just, in my eyes, been huge trailblazing role models, and I hope to take after them a little bit. And then another way I can answer this is that hula, like dancing quite literally, it's made me a lot more in tune with my body. And when I dance hula, I feel very strong. I feel like I know myself. I feel like there's no shame. All the little things about maybe body image or whatever go straight out the door. And yeah, when I dance hula, I feel the most confident. I think it's taught me a lot about how I should carry myself. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Can I add to actually answer the question? Because I realized I didn't answer the question. I feel like it relates to what Sophia said. So for me, just for anyone, hula is inherently political and historical and traditional and everything. Hula is everything. It can describe all aspects of life. And so I feel like that really translates to what we do with Mohala and KALO with civic activism, where the discipline of it and just the knowing the history and all the little intricate details, it's both are necessary in both fields. And that's something that these values we've taken with us as we're doing civic activism. And that's what makes what KALO does and what Mohala does, it makes it really unique, is that we have these values backing us up in a way that other organizations don't. And so we can do political things in a very conscious and very cultural way. So I feel for me, that's the big impact that hula has had on my life, is just how I see the world and how I interact with the world.
Very beautifully said. Beautifully said. I think hula is that, Sophia. The people who have who continue to guide us in hula is amazing. The convention for Nalima Kalapua's council meeting, we were very honored to have Dr. Civic come and speak to our group. And the conversation that I had connected with her was how to really empower our Kanaka or our poe on the continent when we are made to feel like we're not part of the lahui, or when those conversations come up, right? How do we get our people to just know we're here? And I think this comes to support that being in the space as well. And something that was beautiful is that she said, when you look at other people, other culture, they always say the past is behind us, right? Our kupuna are behind us. The past, our ancestors are behind us. They're the past. But in Hawaiian culture, they're not, right? Everything we say is that they're in front of us. They've laid the past. Yeah, ke ala hele, like ke alo na kupuna, like ike kupuna, everything. I think with hula, for all of you folks, it's all of those people who have come before us that have empowered you folks. It's not necessarily just hula people. It's your kupuna and your kupuna's kupuna. Is hula has allowed you to channel how to connect with those people and how to take in what they have left for you as you walk through that path that they have guided. You're picking the flowers or the halua that they left for you folks as you plant the next one for the next generation who's coming, who is going to take that same journey to you. Yeah. And that's you folks. You guys are not the trailblazers. Just remember that. You guys are also trailblazers here. And I had a question, but I think I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save the question I got asked till later. One thing that you guys keep bringing up is about like Hawaii. And you folks know the work that Auntie does with KALO, with KALO. Every space I do represent our Pacific Islander people. And the conversation we always have is, what does that allyship look like too? Right? If you're from Hawaii, if your family's from Hawaii and you're not Kanaka, that's all you, Hawaii is who you know. How do you say you're not from Hawaii when your great grandparents were from Hawaii? Your parents were born in Hawaii. You cannot. And then when you are in a place in Hawaii where the light bulb has come on that you to find who you are. So there's no one person that I go over Chloe say, you folks are very much in the space and the place that you folks need to be. And I think Ana Ka'ula, when he came up here, he also said this, right? If your feet has touched the ground of Hawaii, if your family has drank the water of Hawaii, you have kuleana to Hawaii. And so we always have to remember that no matter where we are. And also remember that our ali'i also honored that too. The people who came to Hawaii to build Hawaii, was it so? Just keep that in mind. I know that is always a question. So as you do what you folks do, and I think you've talked about hula, you've talked about all of this. What truly motivates you to do what you folks do as Mohala Youth Council, not as an olapa? What is the motivation behind the work and the activism that you guys have talked about how cultural practice has given you that kahua, that foundation. But now as you are grounded in who you are as an olapa, and you carry those values that those cultural practitioners have instilled in you, now moving forward, what is your motivation for Mohala?
For me, it's a very nice thing to have on your resume and to have like on paper. But when it comes down to my reason why I'm with Mohala and why I'm involved with what KALO and Mohala do is because I want to create a place where both for my brothers, so they can have a platform, but also for other youth of color, where they can have a platform to voice their opinions and thoughts without being judged, which is like our mission, but it's just like paving the pathway almost, because there's certain things I'm very passionate about that I would like to see change, but I know that with things that big, it comes with like great patience and time. You have to go slowly at it. For example, like the House Bill 3144, that was a huge milestone. And getting that bill passed solidified my reason even more of why I'm involved with this work.
Can you share what is House Bill 344 for people who may be watching it doesn't know what House Bill 3144 is?
House Bill 3144 it's the Pacific Islander Student Success Plan. It is implemented so that there's more resources for Pacific Islander students in Oregon, and it's the first of its kind nationwide. And it's a plan that will be implemented where it goes to schools and it creates resources for students that they can turn to. And yeah, and it's first of its kind. I think for me, there's especially for our BIPOC communities, there's a lot of like stereotypes and assumptions, and a lot of the civic, like all of the big action, like all of the major, what's it called? Decision making, it impacts us. And so the only way that we can start change is by having foundations like Mohala Youth Council, because one day Auntie Lei and everybody else on the board of KALO, in reality, they won't be here like one day. So who's going to take in that responsibility? And Mohala Youth Council is, even if when we're older, it might not be something that we might not see as like our future, I would say, not career interest, but something that, I don't even know how to explain it.
We might not continue doing it.
Even though we might not continue doing it, we have a foundation where we can go back to. And I think Mohala Youth Council, one of my motivations is because we're the next generation. And so after each generation, there's got to be a next. It's what motivates me. Keep going. And, sorry, you go first.
No, Chloe, you can go. It's all right.
Okay. For me, I feel like I came into like social media and stuff like that right around the Trump era when he got elected. So there was like a lot of political stuff happening, even in my house. There was a lot of political stuff happening. There was just more political discussion. And I like started developing so many questions that weren't answered because social media is not where you go to answer questions. And so I started becoming a lot more politically confused and frustrated. And I feel like with Mohala, it not only gave me a way to become educated myself, but also be confident enough to go seek out answers and ways to change the things that frustrated me a lot. And I think I connect this back to family that I have who has not been able to access the law, and they haven't been able to access knowing certain stuff about the government that could have benefited them so much. And I think it's really valuable to make the government and make civic activism accessible to our community, because it's such a valuable resource and it's such a privilege. And it is such an important part of the way society operates.
Hard to follow after Chloe. My answer to this question is pretty simple. I'm on the board of Mohala, and I do this work because I want to give back to the community that raised me. The Native Hawaiian community, they've taught me so much and helped me form my identity and what I know, basically all of what I know today. And so if I'm able to advocate for anything like policies or resources or money for the Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, or BIPOC community, I'm going to do it. And it's just a way of me expressing myself. I've never done it because I thought it was trendy or I thought it was what my parents wanted me to do. Oh, I actually hate that. I hate when people ask me if my parents are like, did they sign me up for this or whatever. They didn't. Honestly, most of the time they don't know what I'm doing. But it feels like something I have to do. Like, I'm given this opportunity to make my voice heard in so many spaces, and there are so many people who are supportive of me and want to hear my voice, and to not share it feels like a waste. So, in a way, when we talk about the work we do as Mohala, it doesn't feel like work. I don't think it ever has. It feels like me hanging out with my hula sisters. We're having fun, we're learning, we're making connections, but it's never felt like work. That's my motivation. And I love doing it. I never want to stop.
I know all of you folks are part of other organizations or clubs or other things. What sets Mohala apart? Like, why, what, not necessarily saying it's better or something, but when you have access at school, or maybe you don't have access to school, maybe we can talk about that. I think Mohala came to be through Nakamani Talk Story, right? Nakamani Talk Story. And but you folks are all part of other organizations and clubs. Like, why Mohala? Why still keep Mohala? What is the difference? How does it stand in a space where you folks have tons of other clubs and organizations and things you could do?
I think for me, a lot of us are in a lot of different clubs, but especially because majority of us in high school, you're very like pressured on what you want to do in your future. And I feel like Mohala Youth Council established what we're passionate for. And so we have people who are interested in, well, whether like through the work of Mohala, through the civic activities, you are able to find that passion of the career interest we want to do when we get older. So we have different like fields, like whatever, like law, Kobu wants to do social work, me health. So on the script. Yeah, she's wearing her scrubs right now. I had a rotation today. We found our interest because of Mohala. It provided that space for us to grow. And so I think that's something that steps away from regular school clubs, because although they are important, Mohala is more of a community-based youth council that'll let you find your own passion at your own pace. To go off what Mayma said, Mohala, you're very like into the work, because you get more experience. And for example, if once you get more involved, you get to go to the conventions. You get to go to the ALHCC convention. You get to go to the conferences. You get to go to sometimes other youth organizations or other organizations in the community. You get more experience, and you also get more like what's the word? A political experience in a way. And I don't know, and you just get to dip your hands in multiple pots.
Okay, I'll go. So I think I can definitely speak to this because at school, or even at school, outside of school, I'm a part of a lot of different leadership programs for youth. And so I'm able to speak my voice on different things affecting different communities. But what sets Mohala apart is that we all share culture. And when we're doing this work, we have instantly some of the similar value set, and we know where we're all coming from. And it also just makes the process of uplifting each other and making change just more fun. And it's just really uplifting to be around people who are like you. But yeah, I hope that made sense. That's what I had to say.
I think having seen Mohala go into so many different spaces, like foundations and panels and webinars and luncheons, like I've noticed that not only are we the only youth in the room, not only the only BIPOC people in the room, but also the only indigenous culture in the room. And a lot of people see so much value in that. And I think I said this before, that having those values, like those indigenous values, rooting everything we do sets us apart a lot. And as much as this kind of gets annoying, we sometimes people look at us to be the final say for a lot of things. Um, like I said, as annoying as it can be, like we're always asked to do stuff. Even like our KALO leaders can attest to this, that because we're representing such a rare community, we're always asked to do things. But I think that's really what sets us apart. And Mohala specifically, as a subsect of that, is that we're youth and we're able to represent that side of KALO so well because they give us such a liberal platform to be able to do that. Like they give us so much leeway to be able to do not whatever we want, but a lot of the things that we want to do. And so, along with the demand for that indigenous culture in our community, we also have that youth side. And I feel that like the youth side is largely supported by KALO.
Absolutely. We do. I speak on KALO, on behalf of KALO, we do. To go off of what Chloe was saying, yeah, here in Oregon, we've gone to multiple government systems that have a name for youth. Like it's the blank youth blank or the youth blank that are federally funded or state funded to support the youth. And we have gone into meetings and they're surprised that KALO brings their youth. And then we're surprised because we don't understand why we wouldn't have the youth. And KALO, we appreciate all of you folks 100% because there are so many spaces. And I just want to also piggyback off of that, Chloe. We are very unique in that sense of having that youth voice. And I just want to remind you folks to make sure you hold on to that and don't say yes to everybody. Be very mindful on who you say yes to and the spaces you show up in. Because a lot of times those spaces can often be a matter of just a checkbox. And so, yeah, I know we have this conversation. Oh yeah, you're like, yeah. So just to wrap it up, because we're getting towards the end. And again, mahalo to Auntie Moana for having this platform and to all of across the continent, like to all of our clubs, all of our organizations. If you do not have a youth arm, a part of your organization, you need to start because we're not the trailblazers. They are the reason KALO is anywhere where we are. It's because of our youth and the work that they do, from taking care of our mala to growing haloa to showing up in spaces to volunteer, everything. What they do, the most important is their voice. And the second thing I think is the allyship. I think something that's unique about Mohala is that when you folks show up in spaces, like Chloe said, you represent indigenous people, but you also represent so many cultures. You folks, the reach that you have in Mohala, I think is what's very unique about you folks too. And we've been in spaces where we're often reminded or we're segregated. We're put into places where when we're on the continent, we're different. When we're living on the continent, we may not know as much and our voice is not as valued. And I'm glad to be in community with you folks so that you guys remind us that's not the case. And I know that you folks have also been in those spaces. And so I hope you guys continue to do this work. However, to close, I want you guys to close with this to get all of our ōpio a part of this, because no matter where you live, no matter where you are, we're all together. We're not segregated. We do this work to empower everybody. But if you could describe what ōpio empowerment will look like in the future, okay? So again, if you could describe what ōpio empowerment will look like in the future, what would that look like? What do you hope it looks like? Yes, the question was for you folks, so you just gotta unmute and answer. Do you guys need me to answer the question again?
No, I had the question. I'm trying to word it in a way where it doesn't.
Nope, just say it.
I guess ōpio empowerment to me looks like where a group of youth don't need to second guess themselves and being in a place where it's predominantly not of people of color or not of youth. I would like to see more. It's where youth are more comfortable, where if they hear something that's going on, like an event, they're not going to think, oh, what is this? Oh, should I go? Or what if there's not people like me? What if I can't connect with anyone there? What if, like all the what ifs? So maybe more of an open environment where more, so that youth are more comfortable in joining, more confident in sharing their voices. And also having the support system that we're fortunate to have. That's what ōpio empowerment.
To bounce off of Kahoku, real quick, I just want to say for me, I hope that in future ōpio places or environments, Auntie, I love you guys so much. I love all the aunties and uncles. But I hope to see less makua in those spaces and more of the ōpio leading. Because I guess when we have the makua in the rooms, we let them do all the organization and the talking. And we just use it as like another like workshop space. So we're not able to, collaborate with each other and stuff. So I feel like when ōpio are given the leadership opportunity, there's so many leadership opportunities. But once we have it for ourselves, for each other, that's something that I hope the future holds for empowerment for the ōpio.
I completely agree. Peer-to-peer like empowerment and conversations, everything is so powerful. And I think something that Mayma didn't add but is really important is that when adults are talking to us, it's not the same. We don't register it the same. And I think I've been holding a voter registration drive at my school, and you wouldn't believe like just what talking in, this sounds corny, but like a teenager type lingo, not being super like formal but like just speaking at a level they would understand, connect to. It has so much power. And a different kind of answer is that peer empowerment looks like we're confident in our power. And that, like Kahoku said, we're not second guessing ourselves. We know that our opinion matters and that we just need to be respectful about it. And yeah.
For me, similar to what Kahoku and Mayma said, I feel like the future of ōpio empowerment is like a lot more collaboration and like true like working together type of collaboration, not just, oh, those are the leaders and then those are the people being helped. Yeah, because
Like when the makua are talking, the ōpio aren't talking.
yeah, it's just even amongst youth too. Certain youth as, oh, those people are the leaders, or those are the people that are like gonna do the thing, and then these are the youth that need help. It's no, I think it's gonna be, or I don't know, the future of ōpio empowerment would be just
ōpio empowering
the community, and that's something that I experienced for I feel like it was the first time for me at the AOHC convention. It was just like that willingness to be like to have that reciprocal relationship and to workshop all of these problems together. So that's yeah.
And what workshop are you talking about? Can you share the
Oh, the workshop I was referring to was like to workshop, but we did a workshop at convention.
We did.
That it was okay. We
Inquiring minds of today's youth.
Yeah, I guess it was inquiring minds of today's youth. It was originally going to be a panel about basically this culture in diaspora for the youth. And we were joined by an ōpio that we know from Oahu that we've been in space with multiple times. That was going to be our moderator. And it happened that some students from Kamehameha schools were also going to be attending convention that day, and they happened to attend our workshop. And so it turned into kind of a talk story. So we made a circle, and the adults were on the outside, just like listening.
Yeah.
They were listening, and
Originally, we were gonna
they
be
were collaboratively listening.
yeah, we're like originally we were gonna be the panelists, and we're like, let's not make it like this. Let's make it more.
So we made it a circle, and we bounced off of each other's ideas. And it was the first time that we felt like we were able to relate with ōpio from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going off the camera. And that was the first time I felt that like relationship start to build. And it gave me a lot of hope, not just for the work being done at the association level, but for the work that's being done for Hawaii in the politics, land rights, and everything, and how we can help and how they can help us establish our resources up here. Yeah, like that pilina was like very apparent.
So for
And it was very symbolic, the way that we had the room structured.
Empowering for us is ōpio empowering other ōpio. So even if it was going to be a panel, that meant that only us, we were giving our mana'o. So we wanted to bounce that off to the other ōpio who were joining. That's why we created that circle, because no matter what, as the panelists, we're the only ones giving our answers. So we wanted to provide that space for them too, because we want to empower them.
Beautiful. What I'm hearing is that ōpio, the future of ōpio empowerment is for the makua to step outside of the circle and listen. Yeah, listen. And when we have to say something, maybe then we raise our hand. I also, Auntie's an advocate for that. So I love that. So again, mahalo for your folks' mana'o, mahalo for your folks' time, mahalo for sharing all of your stories. Again, Mohala Youth Council is a huge part of KALO, and it is a huge part of the KALO success on who we are as a Hawaiian Civic Club in Oregon and Southwest Washington. These young ladies are very much amongst the many of our halau. All of our halau members are the foundation of what we do culturally, and our cultural practice thrives here in Oregon because of all of them. And again, mahalo to you folks. Mahalo for sharing. And we hope that you folks look up Mohala Youth Council. And did Mayma have something? Yeah, go ahead, Mayma.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. It is Mohala_YC Chloe. Chloe. I can't see. Okay. MOHALA_YC. Mohala Youth Mohala_YC. Follow us on IG.
You can also find them on kalohcc.org. They have their own tab on the page. You can read about them and read about all of their past YouTubes. I think they have a Nakamali'i Talk Story. It was an awesome 2-year run as they were navigating COVID, and they had some pretty awesome people. I'm sorry, my dog also wants to talk right now. But Chloe was on a panel with Dr. Fauci and the second gentleman. We had chief medical officers. We had educators, cultural practitioners. Their work was awesome. So definitely take a look. Mohala Youth Council. Mahalo again to Auntie Moana for having us. Mahalo for giving us the space. Mahalo for creating this space for our community, for the Pacific Islanders, as well as our BIPOC community, and just bringing this to all of us. So mahalo, 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 and aloha.
Oh, mahalo, everybody. I really appreciated the conversation tonight. And I'm so glad that you guys said like that sometimes the makua need to just step back and listen to the youth. That's something I personally kako 1000%. And am always looking to see, like looking for the youth voices. I want you guys to think about how the Moana Nui podcast can help to empower you guys. What ideas, topics, workshops, whatever it is that the collaborations that you guys do, please think about that and let me know how we can support that and uplift the voices because I really do want more ōpio voices on the podcast. And mahalo le for bringing it to me and giving us a chance to be the launch pad for more content like this. I look forward to our next conversation. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in. Take care, everybody. Talk to you guys soon. Ahui ho.